I see. Atoka Joy, Nishnaho, Dilto, Hoshi Ayate Hununza, Condesahoi. I see. And that's it. Idea, Sato. He has feet on it. So, Shehed. So, the next item is recognizing guests. And, excuse me, let's do announcements. Committee members, do you have any announcements?
Mr. Chair, this is Angela Developmental.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair and members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, Honorable Delegate Charlene So did contact us, indicating that she's not available this afternoon because she already committed to attending a different meeting. Thank you.
Sheila, let's go to recognizing, yes. For all the folks on the call, please introduce yourself. For the folks on the call that are going to be part of the work session, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman So, and members of the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. This is Deanna Nesrigishi, Division of Social Services. Thank you.
Hello, this is Brenda Sosi. I am the Principal Accountant with Division of Social Services. I'm on the call as well.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, legislative staff. This is Rosalind Begay with Division of Social Services. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Riam Tibu with Naval Family Assistance Services.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. This is Tommy Associate from Office of the Speaker on the call.
Anybody else? If not, then let's proceed to review of the agenda. Ms. Angelita Lenore.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee. You have your proposed agenda of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, 24th Navajo Nation Council work session, June 14th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Presiding the Honorable Daniel E. So, Chairperson, and the Honorable Carl R. Slater, Vice Chairperson. Places via telecommunications from the Rock Navajo Nation, Arizona. 1, call work session to order, roll call, invocation, announcements. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review agenda. 4, work session reports with the Division of Social Services program transfers to align with divisions or departments' plan of operations. And the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee directed a work session to address legislation number 0020-22. And it's an act relating to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee approving the amended plan of operation for the Navajo Division of Social Services. The sponsor is Delegate Pernell Halona. A is the Division of Social Services, and it's to to address the current financial viability of the following Division of Social Services departments and programs. 1 is the Navajo Family Assistance Services, NFAS, proposed establishment of the NFAS as a standalone program. 2 is the Dss Federal Contracts, reverted funds to the federal government covering the previous 5 years, including 638 contracts not fully used to benefit the Navajo Nation. And the specific points are the federal fund reversions from FY January 1st, 2016 to FY December 31st, 2021. Recommendations to comprehensively streamline excess or unspent financial balances. Initiatives to disperse contracts and grant funds in a timely manner. The next issue is to update on the tri-state agreements negotiations with New Mexico, Arizona, and Naval Nation. And the presenters who were invited are Mr. Cordell Shorty with contract and grants under OMB, Dominic Bayal, Executive Director of OMB, Elizabeth Begay, Controller of the Office of the Controller, and Mr. Robert Willie, General Accounting Manager with the Office of the Controller. 5, close of work session, announcements, and adjournment. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Benali. With that, let's go to item number 4, work session reports. Honorable Halona, you want to make a brief introductory statement before we go get to the meat of the work session?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, this legislation in 2022 is legislation regarding the approval amended operations of Navajo Division of Social Services. And this work session is regarding those provisions that were not stated as correctly as they wanted to be stated from the division to the delegate. So we'll go as being established now to provide those information that the delegates from the head committee was requesting. Chair.
Thank you. If not us, Honorable Pernell Halona. That will go to Part A, Division of Social Services, current financial viability of the following social service departments and programs. 1, Family Assistance, Navajo Family Assistance Services. The agenda shows Rianne Matiba, Senior Programs and Project Specialist.
Good
Ms.
afternoon.
Matiba.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. My name is Ria Matiba. I am the Senior Program and Project Specialist for the Naval Family Assistance Services Program. My plans are Kia Ani and Shalom to the Chitney Bashachin, Hatso Dashe Hunaga Dashanella. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Am I okay? Okay. This afternoon, I will describe the Naval Family Assistance Services Program, its funding, personnel, offices, workload, potential opportunities, and the basis for it to become a standalone program within the Division of Social Services. Currently, INFAS operates with a total budget of $41,440,203. We've had total expenditures of $110,587 million. The remaining balance of $19.2 million. This program supports 7 field offices in Window Rock, Crown Point, Shiprock, Gallup, Chinle, Tuba City, and Delcon. We have our staff that do check other sites within the reservation to continue providing services. INFAS has a total of 22 positions. Currently, we have 7 vacant senior caseworker positions. In the process of filling those vacant positions, currently we've got 3 selected applicants. So hopefully we get them, bring them on board with favorable outcome by Office of Background Investigation. We also want to include with this new standalone initiative, several field site officers, supervisors. And that, of course, is dependent on whether INFAS becomes a standalone program. For many years, the Division of Social Services operated several social services programs through the Public Law 93-638 contract, which is under BIA, including burial assistance and general assistance, which are currently administered through INFAS. The Division of Social Services receives funding for Navajo School Clothing Program, which is funded by general funds. INFAS also administers that service. In FY22, we spent a total of $1.2 million. We serviced 5,172 school-age Navajo children who live on and off the reservation. We also received a donation from the Casey Family Program in a total amount of $300,000. And that served about 1,200 kids, sorry. And today we have quite a bit of applications that are still outstanding. We have about 2,450 applications for the service, and it roughly totals $1.3 million, which means they're unpaid applications. And we do get customers who continue to inquire about these. Overall, the Division of Social Services receives 70% of its total operating budget from the Administration for Children and Families, which is ACF, within the Department of Health and Human Services. The Office of Community Services also provides a block grant, which is a CSBG funds. And we also receive low-income energy assistance, which is LIHEAP, as well as low-income household water assistance program. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. Congress appropriated billions of funding to prevent, prepare for, or respond to the national public health pandemic created by COVID-19. The Division of Social Services received CARES Act supplemental funding for LIHEAP, CSBG, burial assistance, all of which are administered through INFAS. We have also received ARPA funding for LIWAP, as well as LIHEAP. So we are also administering those funds to supplemental funds to our clients. Additionally, the Office of Community Services within ACF rolled out a new program called the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, LIWAP, which is funded with two separate congressional appropriations, the Consolidated Appropriation Act and the American Rescue Plan Act. LIWAP is a one-time funded program, which is administered by INFAS as well. And the funding period for both of them ends in September 30th, 2023. INFAS administers and operates programs and services that provide financial assistance for which there is a huge need and the demanding workload necessitated by INFAS shifting to automate its operation by using the Tribal Assistance System, which is also dubbed as TAS. It is a case management software, and we are moving to simplify and streamline in a more efficient way to directly provide our services and quickly to all of our clients. There are potential opportunities for INFAS to continue expanding through coordination, improving direct service through collaboration, and enhancing funding and personnel through great opportunities. For its current services and functions and promising opportunities, I respectfully and earnestly implore your support and to approve the INFAS as a standalone program. Thank you.
Ms. Nativa, did you furnish that report to the committee or to Ms. Angelique Benali?
I will leave Rosalind Begay to answer that.
Well, the one thing that I'm concerned about is, you know, it's the report is it starts out current financial liability. And I didn't hear any dollar amount. In one part, you only said a percentage, 70%. So how can the committee also judge the financial liability?
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. So at the beginning of the report, I had stated that we have a total budget of $41 million. We had expenditures of $22 million and a remaining balance of $19 million. This is in combining all of our funding sources, which is general fund, the donation, as well as ACF funds for LIHEAP, CSBG, LIWAP, and then also including the 638 funds that we received.
Okay, I guess the expectation is to have it in an Excel format. Be real helpful. Thank you. Committee members, anybody have any questions? Honorable, I forgot to tell everybody that Honorable Edison Winika came into the BNF conference room. At what time? 1:24 p.m. At 1:24 p.m. for presentation. Honorable Edison Winika, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. Legislation, they don't always have legislation.
legislation basically talks about the transfer programs.
Okay, that's what I was concerned
And then,
about.
yeah,
And I'm still concerned about that because, don't disagree with it and don't support it at this time. Because of there was a letter that was written to quite a few delegates. Also, I think a lot of the committee members received it. Certain things that that's the reason why we should wait as far as this particular legislation is concerned. I know we had a work session on that. It was only specific to the leadership, the manager, and to the executive director. I'd like to get more information. Staff are specific to the program, that work the program. I want to know if these changes will, I don't know, I think it's going to affect them in a certain way that's not going to be good for the people. For that reason, I feel we need to, I don't know, have another work session or what. Not with, still have it with the management, but also with the employees. And the only concern I have is retaliation. One of the delegates had concerns on it too. Key element the gate. So that's my concern, Chair. And I don't know. I feel like tabling this legislation. I don't know if it will be possible to do that. Maybe the sponsor can withdraw for a while.
okay. Thank you, Honorable Wanika. Committee members, right now the legislation not on the table for discussion. We are in a work session to, I guess the main thing is the staff to give justification. And it really hasn't occurred. The pros and cons, we haven't really listened to. I guess the cons part, that's where Honorable Wanika is saying let's take it work session to get input to staff agencies or those that are basically ones that have interaction with clients. How would it be and be efficient? How would the program basically get the assistance that these programs are to deliver clients and that's where we're really looking at financial viability, taking NAFAS out of second or a third tier item and putting it right under the executive director. What would be the accomplishment? And that's where I think it's make it a standalone program. What does that really mean? Myself, that's the broad view that I have. with this, along with concern that Honorable Juanita expressed. Committee members, anybody else? Honorable Vice Chair Rader has also convened with him in the BNF conference room now.
Thank you. Shania Chair, so, the item that I believe Delia Keon Begay had forwarded, I thought was related to the Navajo Treatment Center for Children and Families. And I wanted to ask the sponsor in the program, are you still proposing through this legislation to amend it and then pursue that transfer? Or is this primarily going to be about standing up family assistance services into its own department? You know, that was one of the reasons we, I think, delayed the work session, was for DSS to convene with the Department of Health and discuss that option. So just wanted to hear about that.
Akiba?
Thank you for those questions. In regards to the staffing situation, I have not heard anything from the INFAST staff in regards to concerns. If there are any, I would like to be informed so that I can address them immediately. As far as INFAST goes, since I have begun in working with the program in September of 2021, we have already been conducting services to our clients for LIHEAP, CSBG, general assistance, burial assistance, and school clothing. Currently, the plan of operation, the INFAST staff were under Department of Family Services, but because of the duties involved and the funding requirements, we've started to focus only on those services. So the concern regarding whether or not we would be efficient, we're already rolling in that direction. I do have 22 positions. I have 11 of those positions permanently filled. And we do offer those services aside separately from Department of Family Services. We do share offices with Department of Family Services, but we are pretty clear cut in our roles as far as the programs go. In response to Honorable Slater's question, we are pursuing this transfer so that we can continue to move forward with creating our own policy manuals as well as procedures. And we have a clear-cut path on how we're going to implement those services. Right now, we are still conducting services based on old policies and procedures when the program was under Department of Family Services and the Department of Self-Reliance. So it's really separating the duties between all of the departments and making sure that we are not interfering with Department of Family Services and DSR's duties. Thank you.
So when will we be presented with that amendment to separate? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, This is Rosalind Begay, requesting permission to speak.
You have the floor, Ms. Okay.
Members of the committee, legislation 0020-22 contains amendments to plans of operation for the Office of the Executive Director, to also Department of Family Services, to include Disabilities Development Program to be transferred to that department, and Department for Self-Reliance by removing Navajo Family Assistance Services, or we call it INFAS, from DSR to become a separate standalone or an independent program similar to other programs under the Division of Social Services. That is in the legislation 20-22. After much discussion regarding this legislation and having a work session with the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, it was at the last work session that's when a proposed transfer of Navajo Treatment Center for Children and Their Families program was included to be transferred from the Division of Social Services to the Navajo Department of Health within the Division of Behavioral and Mental Health Services. So we have not had any prior discussions until the last work session. That's when that concept was included in this work session. So therefore, the current legislation 002-20-22, if the committee is going to transfer the Navajo Treatment Center for Children and Their Families program to the Department of Health, then this legislation would then have to be amended to do that. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. In the legislation, organization, first there's that section 1, Roman numeral 1, establishment, 2, purpose, 3, staffing and organization, B, organization. And this particular part where you going from 6 to 5 sections, and a direct service unit comprised of 5 sections, 9 field officers, 12 call techs, and 3 developmental disability services. That's not reflected in the organizational chart. So I guess that's the part that I'm seeing. Ms. Nativa and Mr. Gay.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, the proposed organizational chart for the Department of Family Services under direct services where it says adult/elderly protection program. That's where the aging and long-term care system, which is operated by DFS, Department of Family Services, through an intergovernmental relations or an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona Access, the Medicaid program, and the Developmental Disabilities program, which will then be called unapproved Developmental Disabilities Services. Currently, that program is funded through an IGA with the Arizona Department of Economic Security, the Division of Developmental Disabilities, DDD, that funds that program. So those two Arizona-funded programs or services will be within that one box that you see in the organizational chart. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to add that the Developmental Disabilities Program serves individuals who are Medicaid eligible, who are aged, blind, and or developmentally or physically disabled, and that includes children all the way to the elderly population. And they serve about close to 200 members in the state of Arizona. And their IGA is also undergoing an update, renewal, as reported at the last work session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matiba. Let's go to the organizational chart that's in gold letters, Navajo Division of Social Services. Under that, then Department of Family Services. But then it goes, the top tier organization. And I guess my question is, shouldn't the title Department of Family Services be in a box that say, as what's the intent of this amendment is to put it right under the executive director. I don't see a box and a line to Department of Family Services.
Mr. Chair, this is Deanna Neswagishi. I can provide some comments as well.
Yes, and what I see is the balance of it, the present organizational structure that we had previously amended.
Thank you, Chairman So and members of the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. So the plan of operation that was approved by the HES committee back in January of 2021 does show the current org chart. And so it's not very specific to all of the programs, but more of the main areas. And that's where Department of Family Services does have the one box listing the such as the Department of Child Care, Department of Family Services, Department for Self-Reliance. And so the smaller programs are also listed, which is direct supervision for myself, for all of the managers that oversee the departments or programs. And so in this discussion right now for Naval Family Assistance Services, which is a smaller program, that is where they would be added in as a separate box so Ms. Mateba would be reporting to the executive director as overseeing a program. And so with Department for Self-Reliance, they would be removing the Naval Family Assistance Services from their plan of operation. And it would be a separate standalone program that would report directly, the manager would report directly to the executive director. In regards to the developmental disabilities, when we made these amendments back in January of 2022, just prior to the pandemic, the developmental disability program was a separate standalone, which has been for many years. And there's, I believe, a total of 7 staff. It's not a big program. And so since we have been having 2 years to review how the services were, is where we looked at it would be more complementary to have it under Department of Family Services next to the area of the Arizona Long-Term Care All-Tex program, which do direct reimbursement from the state of Arizona for case management services, where it is a fee for reimbursement of services per member. So if you look at Department of Family Services org chart, they do have a program manager, which is a position to be created and filled. And then you see the Adult Elderly Protection Program, and that's where All-Tex is at. And then the DD services would be falling under that. So as we go into more specific programs under Adult Elderly Protection Program, those programs would be aligned as well under that area. So in regards to All-Tex, those programs are currently under the Adult Elderly Protection Program, and that's where the DD services would be aligned as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee.
Committee members, any comments or discussion? Again, Ms. Nesbitt-Gishi, Gay, and Ms. Mateba. What you're pursuing isn't reflective in the organizational chart, but I guess that's where I'm seeing that there is don't have a box and a line that goes to the executive director that says Navajo Family Assistance Services, and under the Office of Self-Reliance, organizational chart, president, wouldn't that be, and then we would have executive director instead of president of social services? But what this thing is showing is Department of Self-Reliance is going to have its own PAS administrator, a liaison, legislative section, communications section, finance recovery section, a compliance section, fraud investigation section, tax-based, to quality services section, information technology. So it's almost, am I seeing several layers of duplication? Because in the overall vision, wouldn't you have these same sections also? Ms. Nesbitt, E.G., Ms. Begay, Ms. Makiba.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for those questions requesting for clarification. Yes, in the Department for Self-Reliance, in their plan of operation that was approved in January of 2020, on the section of 2, Quality Case Management Services, Direct Service Administration, Family Assistance Services. So this is where we're requesting to remove Family Assistance Services and put them into their own standalone program. In regards to if there's questions for duplication, so all of this in the Department for Self-Reliance is a TANF block grant. The TANF block grant has a different set of eligibility requirements. One thing is they do require a minor child to be considered for a TANF block grant, which used to be similar to the old AFDC, Aid for Children and Dependent Children and Families. So TANF is the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families. So their eligibility is first eligibility is there has to be a minor child in the household to receive TANF benefits under Department for Self-Reliance. The Family Assistance Services, that's not a requirement for any of their services. And so general assistance, an example under the 638 program, general assistance, if there is a minor child in the household, they have to refer their family to Department for Self-Reliance. So there's no duplication of services in that area. And then the other services that they provide is more for a family. There's no requirement again for a minor child. So the funding sources for TANF and the funding sources receive Family Assistance Services are not serving the same population, and there's no duplication. One example is the Naval school clothing. Department for Self-Reliance 2 years prior, they had an incentive for school clothing in the amount of $250. So with the Family Assistance Services, they do not duplicate a TANF child who is enrolled in receiving services for school clothing. They don't serve it with the Navajo Nation school clothing. And this is where we had to have this comprehensive electronic case management database to catch that. So if a child is receiving TANF services under Department for Self-Reliance, and the family comes in to apply for school clothing, the system will already flag it as this child is on Department for Self-Reliance receiving TANF benefits, where they will get their school clothing. So that's where we're reducing any type of duplication as well, Mr. Chair.
About the other part, where the organizational chart would show Navajo Family Assistance indirectly under the Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that.
Show that. Go ahead.
I apologize for interrupting you, Mr. Chair. So in regards to the Family Assistance Services, so when the Family Assistance Services is removed from Department for Self-Reliance organizational structure, is where it would be moving into the Division of Social Services offices as Office of Executive Director as a separate standalone program. Again, due to the changes that needed to move forward with Naval Family Assistance Services with all their various funding, as well as compliance, because We did not want to have, as Mrs. Gorman had presented at the work session last, it was more to be technical assistance, but after a year, it was determined that they could not have any funding, any findings with their funding to provide that direct ongoing assistance to the Naval Family Assistance Services. So that's where administratively we moved it over, and this is where we're going back through the committee. As Ms. Mateba had mentioned, they've been providing the same service, and they're still mostly at the Department of Family Services buildings, and that's where we're moving forward, just to have them as a separate standalone, Mr. Chair.
I guess what I'm saying is, you gotta redo the organizational chart. Before the committee can adopt the plan of operations or act on the legislation. To reflect what legislation is saying it's gonna do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go back and double check. From my understanding, the org chart that was submitted under legislation 0020-22 does reflect NFAS as a separate standalone under the office of the executive director. And then there is a separate new plan of operation for the Naval Family Assistance Services. And that's where on the org chart, it does list all of their the services that are the offices that they have. And then with Department for Self-Reliance, it is removing Family Assistance Services from their org chart. I will just double check, Mr. Chair. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Committee members,
Chair, can I ask a question?
Honorable Vice Chair Slater, you have the teleconference floor.
Thank you. I'm looking at the existing DSR org chart, and it has NFAS crossed out under Program Manager 3. Now, it's lumped in with Education and Career Services, and I want to hear about the current relationship between those two programs and their combination within this org chart, and how you anticipate it might be affected by the separation from CSR.
Ms. Whitgishi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair Slater, for that question. So under the approved plan of operation from January 2020, Section 2, Quality Case Management Services. And so the Education and Career Services, that is a specific new section within Department for Self-Reliance. That section, Education and Career Services, so with the TANF block grant, the adults who are receiving in the benefit group, meaning they're counted, they are required to do 24 hours of work participation average for the whole month. So if they do 24 hours a week, they are in compliance. So at that time, the Education and Career Services was developed so that they can assist families who are receiving TANF benefits to possibly take on vocational training. We have had several TANF customers going through the CDL or heavy equipment training through USUE, Utah State University, Eastern in Blanding. We've had other TANF customers going through the phlebotomy course through San Juan College. And then we've also coordinated with other universities as well, such as UNM, for welding. So this is where the Education Career Services had to really focus on working with the TANF customers so that they meet their work participation. And then one of the TANF, there's 4 goals for the TANF block grant. And one of them is to help prepare the individuals to not be dependent on long-term governmental benefits. And that's where Department for Self-Reliance had to create a new section within the TANF, or Department for Self-Reliance offices, so that the case managers can really work with the families to really help them establish education and their career moving forward. So the Family Assistance Services was not participating with under the Education Career Services because they have a lot of one-time funding source, such as LIHEAP, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. The other one-time assistance is Community Service Block Grant. Naval School Clothing is a one-time assistance. Burial assistance is a one-time service. The only one that was ongoing was general assistance services that they had. So that's where they're continuing to work with the families who are under general assistance. And under general assistance, they have 2 categories where a person is employable and non-employable. So the non-employables are not required to seek education or any additional career because they're not employable. Maybe they broke their leg or they're needing to apply for SSI or some other benefit. So that's where they're sort of broken down. So with Family Assistance Services being removed from the Department for Self-Reliance plan of operation, in particular, the Education Career Services is not going to have an impact. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee members, any follow-up questions? Honorable Vice Chair Slater, you have the floor.
Thank you. I guess some of the feedback that I'm getting from a variety of places, but also in the comments to the legislation, is the concern that this amendment could take place and it would go into effect, I guess immediately, but if a new executive director comes in come January, will this same mode of thinking be preserved and encouraged? Or are they going to pursue some big comprehensive change to DSS? And I just want to hear the thoughts and what you think the durability of this proposal is and what some of the pitfalls may be in implementing it if there is a change in administration.
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Ms. Nesbitt-Gishi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and thank you, Vice Chair Slater, for that question. So, in regards to the durability, we made this initial change of family services to be under Department for Self-Reliance in January of 2020. And so we have had a year of it being administered under the Office of the Exec Director. So that change had occurred in January. So we've been able to monitor it when the questions ask for durability. The employees initially were placed at Department for Self-Reliance field offices. So when we made that administrative change, because again, we had to make sure the TANF block grant did not come into any questions of it providing actual direct supervision over another non-TANF program. And so we've been able to move that forward. So as of January 2021, we've been doing this monitoring of NFAS directly. So it's been a year and a half to respond to the question as far as durability. Is it something that's going to be best suited in that area? In regards to pitfalls of administration, we do have the programs with under Ms. Mateba's leadership since September of 2021. She has been building her team moving forward. And so we do have these meetings with Ms. Mateba and her team from the Office of the Executive Director, how we're moving forward. We will be having, we're updating all of the plan, the actual procedures and policies. So it's not where it is a quick move without some thought into it. And so with the new administration, we do have the new Deputy Division Director, Ms. Marlinda Litterman, that would continue to advise and work with the new Executive Director for Division of Social Services come January 2023. And so we are inclusive with this department and with under Ms. Mateba's leadership is where we'd like to continue moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Ms. Medwick. In the chair's view, the organizational chart that you present does not reflect what the legislation is going to do. And that's the part that the stumbling block on. The actual legislation, the plan of operation, page 2, first line of that page. It Navajo Family Assistance Services Program shall report to the Executive Director. Where there's not a box under the Executive Director box, it's a Navajo Family Assistance Services Program. So, committee members, do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, this is Rosalind Begay with Social Services. May I direct you and the members of the committee to the attachment 1 that's following that particular section that you were referencing, the organizational chart for the Division of Social Services. That organizational chart comprises, it's an overview of the division's organizational structure, where you will see the first tier will be the technical support, where it has the office, the sections, including information technology, policy section, administrative support, financial management, human resources, communication section. That is the technical support that provides support, administrative and technical support to the programs and the departments that are listed as direct services. It lists the departments and programs. It has Department for Self-Reliance, which is a total department in itself. It's fully funded by TANF block grant, Navajo Department of Family Services, which has several funding sources, Navajo Department of Child Care and Development, primarily funded through ACF, through the Office of Child Care, and they receive proprietary funding from Navajo Nation General Fund. And then the Navajo Indian Child Welfare Act, program, which is funded by BIA, also other, I believe, from ACF. And then the Navajo Treatment Center for Children and Their Families program, which is, I guess, under consideration to be transferred to the Department of Health. And then there you see the strike through of the Navajo Developmental Disabilities program. That's strike through because it's being proposed to be transferred under the Department of Family Services. Then you see in that dotted line box, Navajo Family Assistance Services Program, as proposed to be a separate program under the Division of Social Services by removing it from Department for Self-Reliance. So this organizational chart reflects the proposed amended plan of operation for the Division of Social Services, which was reviewed by DOJ, and DOJ deemed it legally sufficient. So I just wanted to bring that to the committee's attention. So this is an overview. This is the division's overall organizational chart as proposed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think we're spinning our wheels.
Could I make a recommendation?
Honorable Vice Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Begay, could I ask that you revise that attachment 1 and then figure out a way where the direct services aren't subordinate to the technical support, but they're on an even par and they all report up to the deputy and executive? I mean, I'm pretty confident that the department managers are not, beneath or under, I don't know what the correct term is, under the IT section under communication, and that's what this seems to imply just with the hierarchy. I think they're supposed to work together and report to the executive office, so that's what I'm guessing there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, and Mr. Vice Chair, I will work with our team on that. Thank you.
Honorable Edison Juanita, you have the floor. Okay. So, perspective of this particular section remains a work in progress. So, committee members, let's finish the balance of the agenda, and then we'll decide if and when we would schedule another work session. And everything, if it's a nice package, then we could put it back on the agenda. Committee members, so let's proceed on to number 2 on the second page of the work session agenda, Division of Social Services Federal Contracts. This is specific to the reverted funds of to the federal government covering the previous 5 years, including the 638 contracts not fully used to benefit the Navajo Nation. Ms. Angelique Finale, please finish up number 2.
And you can hear us?
Okay, let's just proceed. One, the first federal fund reversion from FY 0101 2016 to FY 1231 2021. And then we'll look at the recommendations to comprehensively streamline excess and or unspent financial balances. And then we'll look at initiatives to disperse contract and grant funds in a timely manner. The last one would be the that's respective adult-ex program, but will with a statement that there's agreements with Arizona Access on the long-term elderly program. We'll substitute that in there. So Ms. Brenda Sosi. And then Mr. Cordell Shorty, are you available? Mr. Dominic Vial, are you available? Ms. Elizabeth DeGay, are you available? Mr. Robert Willie, are you available? Are they on the Zoom? I don't know who they are. We're just hoping online. That's all. We can wait. The gay earlier today?
division or program, did you, hear, Chair?
It's, Brenda Sosi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is Brenda Sosi. I'm the principal accountant with Division of Social Services. I am present to answer any questions. But I just want to give you an overview of the federal funds that we get for Division of Social Services. We have the 5 state fundings that we get, which is from Arizona, Utah, New Mexico. Those are the Title 20 programs, and they are for child protective services. Then we have the disability, developmental disabilities, and Arizona long-term care system funds that we get, and they are the cost reimbursement for the case management that we provide for the members. Then we have 7 federal funding, which includes the low-income energy assistance program, that's LIHEAP, then CSVG, Community Services Block Grant, and also we get TANF funds, and then we get the Title 4B subpart 1 and 2, also family violence, and then we have child care development as well. Then the 5 Public Law 93-638 contracts, that's with BIA for treatment, Navajo Treatment Center for children, their families, then Department of Family Services, then INFAS, which is Navajo Family Assistance Program, and ICWA. And we have an IHS contract that's for Navajo Treatment Center for children, their families. So the overall funding that we get from BIA, percentage-wise, it's 18%. Then federal funds, which we get from ACF, is 79%. And the IHS state funds and general funds is at 1% each. And the 638 funds through IHS, they are open until expended, and there are no reversions. The state funding for Arizona long-term care and developmental disability program, they are both cost reimbursement, and it's a fee for service. So you know, and estimated budget is projected based on number of members, and it's multiplied by the case management rate that gets negotiated every year. And these funds are not reverted as well. Also, the TANF funds are the same way. They are not reverted back to the federal because it allows TANF, DSR, which is Department of Self-Reliance, to reserve amounts awarded, you know, without fiscal year limitations to provide assistance to the tribal TANF program. And DSR can expend funds beyond the fiscal year, which is awarded only on benefits that meet the definition of assistance or administrative costs directly associated with providing assistance. And these reserve accounts are usually used as contingency funds for situations such as continuing operation until the new grant award is received. So, and then also there's the Department of Self-Reliance also submits the 196T report, and that's what they do each quarter, and they have they get audited annually as well. So that's the introduction of the overall funding that we get for Division of Social Services, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sophie. Committee members? We're at a standstill because we need folks from OMB Office of contracts and grants, and, the Office of the Controller on the call to give us what we're asking for.
Do we have CGS or anyone from OMB or OOC on the line? Sure, I don't hear anyone, so my recommendation would be to ask the program for, I think they call it, I mean, there's reversion reports, and then there's something for that documents all the fund balances. So my ask would be if the division can provide that to the committee to the greatest extent possible for review at tomorrow's committee session, and then we can also have an action item to get the OMB and OOC view and try and reconcile those two. Either have the programs come back with OMB and OOC at another committee meeting, or we could have a work session, but we don't have any numbers in front of us right now, and I know we've received that in the past, but we need something that's up to date, and we need OMB and OOC, because the whole point that, you know, I was one of the people who was pushing for this. The whole point is to figure out how we can help DSS spend money and provide those direct services and remove roadblocks. And I think there's shared culpability between the program, OMB, and OOC to make that happen. It's not all in one entity. This problem exists across the whole Nava Nation government, and we can look at this one program that has a bunch of different funding sources, or I say division that has a bunch of different funding sources. I think it could provide a template for us rectifying these issues across the government. We also had originally scheduled this for consideration with the Budget and Finance Committee, and I think that it'd be better to bring them in as well. If you remember, that was the time when the Budget and Finance Committee members did not join the work session, and we sought to reschedule it, but this is the format it's taken. So that's my recommendation, Chair. I don't want us to spin our wheels, and they have direct services they can be doing.
Thank you, Vice Chair Slater. Committee members.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Benali?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, I did forward an email from Cordell Shorty to the HES members, and it's he did attach an overview, I think, accounting of external restricted funds with NDSS, and also the 638 contract SS program part. He indicated part 1, and then the BER account external restricted funds for NDSS. And Mr. Shorty sent this at 2:28, and it was sent to Jermaine Jones along with Jan James, and I forward these reports to HES members along with Legislative Council. Mr. Chair.
Quite a document. Any members? Want to proceed, or do you want to use this as homework? Homework. So, gee, multi-level. Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Brenda Sosi.
Ms. Sophie.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I have my report as well. I updated that. If you want to take a look at that. Because on the agenda, it did indicate that the presenters were going to be OMB and OOC. So I did my report. I'm not sure what they're reporting, but I have my report if you want to look at that, because I condensed like all the general funds that we get. And then also the, by the funding source, that's how I prepared mine. So it's easier to read. If you want that information be sent over.
Please send it over, thank you. I guess that was the original thought too. Committee members, your thoughts on proceeding?
Chair, I would appreciate the opportunity to review these budget expenditure reports. Looking at the Nava Treatment Center for Children and Families, FY16 funding, $1.5 million still there. I don't know, there's a lot to get through here, and Ms. Sophie, I appreciate you sending along that report to the committee. Thank you.
So, committee members, the chair will we'll poll everybody to see when we have time for another work session. I think speaker basically wants to schedule Navi. The speaker wants to schedule a Navi. As I understood him, 22nd and 23rd to readdress 0086. And right now, that would include a regular meeting with the heads on the 22nd. We would opt out. We could go 20th or the 21st for a continuing work session. The 20th. For me, I've already pre-scheduled the 24th for.
The 20th, I think, is open for me, right? I think in the afternoon, right?
Okay, the 20th. So by consensus, we'll continue this work session on the June 20th. I have 4 members here agreeing to the 20th. Let's do 9. And with the inclusion of a break recess at noon. Committee members. All right.
Well, you said 9 a.m.?
Yes.
The only thing I'd say is I'm pretty sure the OMB or OSC participates, and doesn't the president have a meeting every Monday morning?
Oh, geez, yeah.
So that's why I said in the afternoon, but, or 11 or something, I don't know.
Let's, okay, thank you for that, Honorable Slater. 11, work session at 11 a.m. on the 20th. That started at 11, because, legislative staff usually has a meeting Monday mornings, and then, more than likely all the other OMB and ORC will probably be the same. So it's 11 a.m. on June 20th.
Mr. Chair, this is Deanna Neswagishi. May I ask a question for clarification, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So there'll be a follow-up work session. May I ask what will be on the agenda? Because I've been pulling all of the managers to listen in and participate. If it's with a particular program or service, then I'll make sure those managers are present. Thank you.
We're still on the legislation. And again, the main part about the organizational chart reflecting what the proposed amendment would do. And then, of course, again, what Honorable Slater asked Mr. Gay. The aspects of technical staff. Remember the critical question that you asked, but I think they understood. But ALA committee members, and it's real critical that we get the presentation on the email that with the budget expenditure report that we got from the Shorty. Wait a minute, any other announcements? Any more graduation? Any more groundbreaking? Okay, what's that?
I have a quick one, not very, it's a sad one, but it has to be told.
Yeah.
Our president from Tohatchi. Passed away yesterday.
Oh, man. Long time Navajo Nation employee in the financial services. Julie Badoni, he used to also part of the rodeo. There's the fun. Oh, sad. At UNM, did you say? Where did she pass?
Some kind of cancer.
Oh, dear. With that, so the chair will then go declare this work session adjourned.